Hey vinyl community, Mark here again from Sound Masters with another video focusing on all things vinyl. Now in today's video I've got a really intriguing platter mat that we're going to talk about called the HEXMAT Eclipse. Now unlike traditional platter mats, this turns the whole concept of how they should work on its head and actually leaves the record essentially floating, minimising the contact surface area with the record instead of maximising it and then focusing on dampening and resonance control like most other turntable mats do. So how does this work? Does it work? Does it make any difference to the sound? We're going to take a look at this product in more detail today and kind of make an assessment for ourselves. So let's get straight to it. So, to understand HEXMAT, let's just take a small step back to 2019. They release their first version, the entry level to this whole concept of the record floating. It's called the Yellowbird and it was developed by a Hungarian sound engineer whose name I won't even try to pronounce, but we'll put it on the screen for you to decipher for yourself. Now this guy developed the concept off the base of his kind of passion for vinyl, but also a strong knowledge of studio recording and mixing techniques with a desire to extract as much performance out of his beloved vinyl format as possible. So if we take a little look here, take it out of the packaging, and they did try a whole bunch of different materials during the development of this product. So they tried wood, they tried metal and various other types of materials, but as an entry level to the concept they settled on this polymer finish here, which is essentially a kind of almost rubbery kind of material that you can see in front of me. You can kind of get the whole idea of it, and straight away the bright yellow colour is pretty striking actually. But the thing you'll see that's different to different turntable platter mats is not just the eccentric shape, that hexagonal shape, but also all these slight raised surface bits here, these sort of knobbly bits if you can call them that. They are kind of on both sides, and so basically the whole idea is that we're reducing the contact surface area with the turntable itself and also the record to almost zero, and they give the exact measurement in terms of what the contact surface area is over on the specifications on their website. But you can see that compared to making full contact with a platter mat in the traditional sense, this essentially leaves the record almost floating, and hopefully that's coming out on the camera, that on both sides there are these very small tiny raised little pieces here. So that's an interesting idea, because a lot of platter mats traditionally, you know, I've reviewed several over at the website, such as the Funk Firm Acromat, for example, or the Sound Deck, which is another one, but then also more kind of humble materials such as cork, all of which have different and unique sound characteristics. So yeah, traditionally, higher end platter mats such as the Acromat by Funk or the Sound Deck that I have here in front of me as well, they all focus on dampening and resonance control. The HEXMAT designs are different, and this, the Eclipse, is their latest offering. So straight away from this packaging, this wooden packaging, real wooden packaging, you can see they're really going for the high-end hi-fi market. And of course, we're not here to talk about packaging, but at the same time, if you're looking at the high-end hi-fi market, and let's face it, particularly in that high-end side of vinyl records, it's a luxury market. So it's nice to see that the presentation is there in terms of the product when you receive it. But this also serves as a really useful and really solid storage device. Say if you were moving house or you wanted to use a different turntable platter mat for whatever reason further down the line, you could store it safely in here to make sure that it didn't get warped for whatever reason over time. It's a really good way of storing it. So the new Eclipse design seeks to improve on the initial Yellowbird concept, and according to HEXMAT, the surface area is reduced even further thanks to these specially embedded spheres that you can kind of see here. And if you look at the original design, where the elements that protrude from the body surface here are actually 100% part of the entire structure, on the new version of it they are inserted, so they're not fully attached all the way round to the main body of the platter mat. And apparently each one of these raised contact points is hand finished by the designer himself to ensure high quality, hence the kind of handmade aspect of the entire platter mat. Now the main body is 2mm thick of a kind of polymer that feels significantly more rigid than the original Yellowbird. Despite this, Both mats are 3mm thick in the overall size, meaning that you can easily upgrade from the Yellowbird to the Eclipse without having to adjust your VTA or, of course, your vertical tracking angle of your tone arm. I like the fact that this feels more rigid and kind of feels more substantial than the initial Yellowbird, which has much more kind of give in it in terms of its flexibility. At this point in the review, it is important to note that any additional layer on your turntable platter mat will raise the height of your cartridge and change the tracking angle. A change of 3mm should be compensated for by raising the tone arm tracking angle by the same measurement. If your turntable does not have the ability to adjust VTA, then I do not recommend investing in a HEXMAT. One aspect I've always admired about the HEXMAT designs is how well they grip the platter. So compared to direct competitors, when I put the HEXMAT on my turntable, or any of the HEXMAT designs for that matter, both of them grip the platter naturally. Other less grippy designs are prone to slipping sometimes on platters without the additional support of double-sided adhesive discs, as provided with an Achromat, for example. The HEXMAT also applies the same gentle grip between the HEXMAT and the record, as you'll see on the screen here, which means that the HEXMAT Eclipse and the Yellowbird can claim, or boast if you like, full torque transfer from the rotating platter. In short, the benefit here is less potential for wow and flutter. So how did it perform on the turntable? Well, I selected several records for the listening test, including a couple of AAA reissues cut from the original analog master tapes. These included The Meters Rejuvenation and Teddy Pendergrass Life is a Song Worth Singing. Both are recent VMP releases cut by Ryan Smith at Sterling Sound, of course. I'll put a link in the description below for you to check those out if you're into all analog reissues. So in addition though, I also span an old copy of the first Santana album alongside the Counting Crows August and Everything After and Radiohead's Kid A. Now, I'm not a huge fan of overly flowery language to describe how things sound. I like to get things more down to the accessible basics. That's just my style. But I'm going to begin by just explaining the difference in terms of what I experience between the Eclipse and the Yellowbird. Now, in my experience, all platter mats offer an incremental and subtle improvement in performance instead of revolutionary change. If you want more revolutionary change, then you're looking more at a cartridge upgrade, for example. The HEXMAT Eclipse is though said to improve further still on the already impressive performance of Yellowbird, particularly in the area of stereo image and channel separation. For me though, the most noticeable improvement was a further lowering of the noise floor. Now this makes sense to me as the contact surface area is further reduced, allowing less chance for unwanted mechanical or vibration noises to enter the signal chain. This subtle improvement, and I must stress it is very subtle, made it easier to pick out fine details from a recording. In this sense, the Eclipse succeeds the Yellowbird in performance. In addition, the thicker, rigid design gives the product a more premium feel than its flexible forebear. So I ran these tests across both of my turntables, a Project X1 and a Technics SL1500. Adjusting the VTA on a Technics SL1500 with its simple dial adjustment is a lot easier than doing this on a Project X1, which requires a really fiddly adjustment using an Allen key. Now again, I'm not a huge fan of overly flowery language to describe these kinds of listening tests, but I did notice several general improvements in clarity across the frequency spectrum. As a general rule, the mid-range became clearer and more focused, giving an improved sense of instrument separation. Much of this, basically, I put down to the lower noise floor, which would make sense to me, but also, similarly to the Funk Firm Achromat and the Sound Deck alternatives, everything just gets a little bit of a tightening up. I felt though that these subtle improvements were more noticeable on the Technics deck, as the Project X1 has an acrylic platter, whereas the SL1500 has a metal platter that I had a simple, humble cork mat on top of. It made sense to me that moving from acrylic to the HEXMAT Eclipse would represent a more subtle upgrade, as acrylic already possesses excellent dampening and resonance control compared with a metal platter and cork combo. So what's the conclusion then? What's the bottom line here? Well, the Eclipse undoubtedly exceeds the Yellowbird in my mind in terms of design and sound quality, and in the world of platter mats it's up there with the very best. Admittedly though, the price point is high, and that could prove a sticking point for most day-to-day record collectors. It's over double the cost of its nearest competitors, but given the handmade design and the clever full grip, full torque design, I'd argue it's a cut above the rest. The Eclipse would suit record collectors that are happy with their chosen setup but want to squeeze the very best possible performance out of their gear. It's a subtle improvement, but for many collectors, particularly those with far more impressive and expensive equipment than myself, the price is easily justified as the final icing on the cake, if you like. So thanks ever so much for watching. I hope you found this interesting, at least on kind of some level, even if it's just, you know, you're intrigued by the whole idea of it, you know. But if you have used this product, I want to know what you think of it down in the comments below. If not, what type of platter mat do you use, and why do you use it? Why do you like it? What's your preferred platter mat? What sits on your turntable and your deck right now? Let us know down in the comments below which one you would recommend out there to all the Sound Matters viewers. As always, thank you ever so much for your support and for watching. If you're new here, please do consider subscribing, and we'll see you in that next video. Keep spinning.